الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أما بعد. Tonight's lesson بإذن الله سبحانه وتعالى is on Kitab as-Siyam, the chapter of fasting from Bulugh-Maram, page 226, the fifth book in the English translation, and also in the original Arabic version, al-Kitab al-Khamis, Kitab as-Siyam. قال الشارح رحمه الله: وهو لغة الإمساك، فيعم الإمساك عن القول والعمل من الناس والدواب وغيرها. قال أبو عبيد: كل ممسك عن كلام أو طعام أو سير فهو صائم. وفي الشرع إمساك مخصوص وهو الإمساك عن الأكل والشرب والجماع وغيرها مما ورد به الشرع في النهار على الوجه المشروع، ويتبع ذلك الإمساك عن اللغو والرفث وغيرهما من الكلام المحرم والمكروه، لورود الأحاديث بالنهي عنها في الصوم زيادة على غيره في وقت مخصوص بشروط مخصوصة تفصلها الأحاديث الآتية. وكان مبدأ فرضه في السنة الثانية من الهجرة. as-Siyam, San'ani rahimahullah, the Sharih, he says, literally means nothing to do with Islam or Sunnah or Ilm or Fiqh or Hadith, but literally means in Arabic language, al-Imsak, abstinence, to abstain and to refrain, to hold back, to stop or to avoid from doing something. That's what the term linguistically means, is not to do something, to abstain from doing something. Whether that thing be a statement, whether it be an action, whether it be you avoiding speaking to humans, avoiding speaking to animals, avoiding making any noise, avoiding meat, but I'll eat vegetables today, avoiding just food and I'll drink water or tea today. Whatever type of refrainment or abstinence that you wish to perform. That's what the word Siyam literally means in the language of the Arabs, the language with which or in which or by which the Quran was sent down. Abu Ubaid Qasim ibn Salam, he says in his book Gharib al-Hadith, anyone who stops talking or stops eating or stops walking is considered Sa'im. They're fasting, quote unquote. As far as its meaning in al-Islam, in the Sharia, Imsakun makhsusun, that it is a special type of abstinence, a special type of refrainment or refraining, special type, Imsakun makhsus, which is, he says, wahuwa, which is avoiding eating, avoiding drinking, and avoiding sex. And other things as well that are mentioned in the Sharia. Other things as well, besides eating and drinking, which could be considered one thing. And then sex, which is one thing. And he says, وَغَيْرِهِمَا, other things as well, such as hijama, such as ghiba, mathalan, and other things like this. He says here, في النهار على الوجه المشروع, during the daytime, in the way that has been laid down in the Quran and in the Sunnah, the way that has been clarified, the way that's been explained, to abstain from something which is eating, drinking, having sex, and anything else that's mentioned in the Kitab and the Sunnah, only in the daytime though. And the way that it has been legislated, And he says in a follow-up of all of these things, he says, is abstaining from idle talk, abstaining from obscenities, lewdness, profanity, cursing, lustful speech, any speech that's haram, or at best dislike, makruh. At best it's makruh. Based off of the hadith, which prove that they're even worse in the time or the state of Siyam. It's a bad thing to make haram speech. It's a bad thing to make disliked speech, to be foul, to curse, to speak without knowledge, to gossip, to backbite. But it's even worse to do it when a person is fasting, in the time of fasting. Fi waqtin makhsus, as we said, in a specific time. And there are specific conditions of fasting. There are conditions for a fast or one's fast to be valid. It's valid if you fulfill these conditions. And if you don't fulfill these conditions, then the fasting is invalid. Invalid. And then there are also conditions which make someone's fast mandatory. In which if you do not fulfill these conditions, then it is not mandatory for you to fast. It's optional. Two things now, pay close attention. Conditions for the fast to be obligatory. Conditions for the fast to be valid. We've explained this before. In other words, a child being 7 years old, in most cases, the fast is not what? Mandatory. It's not obligatory to fast. But because they're 7 years old, if they chose to fast and they did that what they're supposed to do, the fast would be valid. It would be sahih. But if the child was only 3 or 4, then it wouldn't necessarily be valid. And it also isn't obligatory. Understand this? It's not mandatory to fast when you're traveling. But if you choose to fast, then it would be valid. A mincing woman, is not obligatory for her to fast. If she chose to fast, it would be invalid. Everybody understand this? Double conditions. Khairan, inshallah. He then says, these conditions, shurut sahha, shurut ijab, انتبه, في فرق. This is every aspect of fiqh, hajj. There are conditions for the hajj to be valid. And there are conditions for the hajj to be? No. Or, malish, as you said, Abu Sa'id. Mandatory and then being? Wow. I understand this. Hajj is not obligatory upon a woman who doesn't have a mahram. It's not mandatory upon a woman who doesn't have a mahram. It's not wajib upon her. But if she goes without a mahram and she did everything correct, she fulfilled the conditions, the hajj would be valid. And it's a huge difference between the two. A child who makes a hajj with their parents is valid, but it's not mandatory until they reach age. He says here, and the first time in which the fasting was legislated upon the Muslims, being mandatory, mabda' fardihi, when it was laid down, was during the second year of the hijrah. During the second year of the hijrah. The second year of the hijrah. And we all know as Muslims, the major events of the second year of the hijrah. The most important events of the second year of the hijrah. What battles, who traveled, who accepted Islam, and the list goes on. Khairan, inshallah. And from the highlighting things, or the milestones of the second year of the hijrah, was fasting being made fard. Allah sent down those verses from Surah Al-Baqarah during the second year after they went to Medina. Khairan, inshallah. That's a brief prologue, if you want to call it that, to the chapter. Alhamdulillah, over the last few years, walillahi alhamd, we've done many classes on fasting. We did a conference on fasting. We did workshops on fasting in Philadelphia, in New Jersey, in New York. And most of them, if not all of them, but let's say most of them are online. Whether it's on Hadith Disciple channel, or whether it's on channels before there was Hadith Disciple. The classes in Philadelphia. Several times we've covered these things in different ways. Masjid Taqwa, a few years back, we did this as well. This actual chapter from Bulugh-Maram. All of the recordings are there. Inshallah, what needs to be done is the recordings to be retrieved from Masjid Taqwa, and the MP3s or whatever the CDs turned and converted into audio, or whatever technical word, and made into videos and put on Hadith Disciple. Because it's just sitting there. Tons of content. It's just what? It's just sitting there with Brother Jamal. Khairan, inshallah. The first hadith of the chapter, the author rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين إلا رجل كان يصوم صوما فليصم متفق عليه. فضل جميل. جزاك الله خير. خالد.
عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه تعالى عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين إلا رجل كان يصوم صوما فليصم متفق عليه.
جزاك الله خير. يوسف.
عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين إلا رجل كان يصوم صوما فليصم متفق عليه.
أحسنت. آدم.
عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم أو يومين.
بصوم بالإضافة.
نعم بصوم يوم أو يومين إلا رجل كان يصوم صوما فليصم متفق عليه.
جزاك الله خيرا. طيب تفضل لطفي. You don't have a book?
نعم.
طيب.
عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين إلا رجل كان يصوم صوما فليصم متفق عليه.
بارك الله فيك. شريف.
عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم
لا تقدموا بالفتح. لا تقدموا
رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين
إلا رجل
كان يصوم صوما
فليصمه
متفق عليه.
جزاك الله خيرا. English translation, Jamil.
Narrated, Abu Hurairah Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, "Do not fast for a day or 2 days ahead of Ramadan, except a person who is in the habit of observing a particular fast. He may fast on that day, agreed upon."
طيب جزاك الله خيرا. Hadith, it says, Hadith in the English translation 527. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين إلا رجل كان يصوم صوما فليصمه متفق عليه. Narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do not fast for a day or 2 days ahead of Ramadan, except a person who is in the habit of observing a particular fast. He may fast on that day. Agreed upon. طيب. Hadith says, عن أبي هريرة عن أبي هريرة عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن أبي هريرة عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان لا تقدموا لا تتقدموا لا تقدموا لا تقدموا لا تقدموا رمضان رمضان لا تقدموا رمضان لا تقدموا رمضان لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم بصوم 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 عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم بصوم يوم ولا يومين ولا يومين ولا يومين عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين إلا 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 علة إله إلا رجل إلا رجل إلا رجل إلا رجل كان إلا رجل كان يصوم إلا رجل كان يصوم إلا رجل كان يصوم صوما فليصمه فليصمه متفق عليه متفق عليه متفق عليه متفق عليه عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين إلا رجل كان يصوم صوما فليصمه متفق عليه. طيب من حفظ هذا الحديث المختصر, this small summarized hadith, not even 2 lines long? تفضل يوسف.
عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين إلا رجل كان يصوم فليصم متفق عليه.
طيب تفضل لطفي, جزاك الله خير, أحسنت ما شاء الله. تفضل.
عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم
قال قال رسول الله
قال رسول الله
صلى الله عليه وسلم
لا تقدموا رمضان
بصومي. تفضل آدم, يعني تفضل صحح لو أنت. أيوة أنت خليك كله. أنا قلت تفضل, يعني ليش تتحفظ؟ فهمت أم لا؟
أنا فهمت.
طيب تفضل.
لا
Start from the
تقدموا.
beginning.
عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان يوم
بصومي
بصوم يوم
ولا
ولا صوم ولا يومين
unless except
إلا
إلا لا إله
إلا
إلا الله. Easy.
إلا رجل كان
إلا رجل كان fast
صوم
كان يصوم صوما. إلا رجل
إلا رجل
كان
إلا رجل كان
يصوم
يصوم
صوما
صوما فليصم متفق عليه.
بارك الله فيك جزاك الله خير. آدم تفضل.
أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدم رمضان بصوم يوم أو يومين
لا
بصوم يوم أو يومين بصوم يوم أو يوم
ولا
ولا يومين إلا رجل كان يصوم صوما فليصوم متفق عليه.
جزاك الله خيرا. شريف شرفك الله. Allah make you noble. تفضل.
عن ابي هريره رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم
بصومي
ولا
بصوم يوم
بصوم يوم ولا يومين
إلا رجل
رجلا كان يصوم صوما ولا فليصوم متفق عليه.
بارك الله فيك. جميل. جملك الله بطاعتي. I'll make you beautiful with his obedience. تفضل.
وعن ابي هريره رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان
بصومي it's مضاف.
لا تقدموا رمضان
كتاب خالد. كتاب. تفضل.
لا تقدموا رمضان صوما
It's مضاف. So صوم is مضاف إليه. بصومي one كسرة not two. يوم
بصوم يوم
كتاب زيد. بصوم يوم
ولا يومين إلا رجل كان يصوم
صوما.
فليصوم.
جزاك الله خير. أحسنت. Gotta practice with the grammar in your head. Sketchbook. Sketchbook in your head. مضاف مضاف إليه. It's just that simple. Ba harf jar. B. So me. But it can't be so min because it's still now مضاف. Yawmin and yawmain is the مضاف إليه. Simple. Like a what? Sketchbook. تفضل خالد.
وعن ابي هريره رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين الا رجل كان يصوم صوما فليصوم متفق عليه.
جزاك الله خيرا. أحسنت. بارك الله فيكم. طيب, this hadith tells us, and by the way, this is some fine green tea. Alhamdulillah. Allah has blessed me tonight. Alhamdulillah. طيب. It says, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين. It says, don't start off Ramadan with padding and with cushioning. Don't make an insurance policy for Ramadan. So the hadith is teaching us and telling us. Just empty your cup a little. Focus. Let me pour it in there, inshallah. Not this green tea. Something else, inshallah. It says, don't start off Ramadan with insurance and precaution. Don't make a cushion and a padding for you in Ramadan. There's no insulation that's needed. There's no insulation that's needed between you and Ramadan. There's no insulation that's needed between you, Ramadan and Sha'ban. You're making a house let's say in Guyana, when you build this house, Sheikh Khan, are you going to put insulation in the walls? Why not? It's not needed. Why isn't it needed? It doesn't get cold. It doesn't what? Doesn't get cold. In New York City, house that you build, you're going to put what? Why? Because it's needed. Because it's what? It's needed. Everybody says what? It's needed. The insulation is what? It's needed. The Messenger of Allah says, telling us there's no need for this when Ramadan comes. There's no need for you to put something between yourself and between Sha'ban or Sha'ban and Ramadan, according to one interpretation of the hadith. Don't start off Ramadan with padding and with cushioning, unless you would normally do that. Unless that's your normal basic practice, then it's okay. Make your insulation, or it's not even insulation. I'm only putting it there because I normally put it there, and that's how I'm used to making and building houses. No more, no difference. The insulation was free. It was free. Why not put it in the walls? Why not what? Put it in the walls and seal the windowsill. It's free. It didn't cost me anything extra. This is how I normally make the walls and build the houses. This is the only thing that I'm used to doing. So therefore, it's what? It's okay. But thinking and feeling that you need the insulation for the walls and the windows in Guyana is what? Don't do that, because it's a waste of money and a waste of time. If you go out your way and buy the extra supplies, spend more time, more effort, more energy, this what? It's unneeded. Everybody understand what the hadith means yet? The Prophet ﷺ says, do not bring 1 or 2 extra days before Ramadan, except for someone who normally fasts in Sha'ban, normally fasts Mondays and Thursdays, normally fasts the fast of Dawood, someone who normally fasts the white nights, etc. Whatever situation could be for voluntary fasting. إلا رجل كان يصوم صوما فليصومه يعني فلا بأس عليه في هذا الصوم. أما الاحتياط وأما لكونه يوم الشك أو فلا فهمت أم لا؟ Doing extra fasting before the month of Ramadan because of precaution, there's no need for that. Or another way of looking at it is when you're building a house, Sheikh Khan, you're putting the walls up, you're going to use drywall or sheetrock or whatever the case may be. You putting in the insulation takes extra time, extra effort. It's wearing you out. It's wearing your laborers out, and it's unnecessary. So when it's time to actually install the electricity, the plumbing, to do the windows, to do things that you actually need in the house, you're going to be what? Worn out. That's another way of understanding hadith. Don't start off Ramadan with extra days, because when Ramadan comes around, you'll be sluggish. Everybody clear on this? That's what this hadith is teaching us. Is that when the month of Ramadan comes, before it comes, the outskirts of Sha'ban, or the outskirts of Ramadan, there's no extra precaution needed. There's no extra fasting that's needed before Ramadan, unless it's your normal practice to make that the voluntary what? Fast. Everybody understand this? This is a basic, simple way of reinterpreting and properly understanding the hadith. And this is what is needed. Everybody understand this? The robotic, mechanical translation and classes on hadiths is not what we want. We wanted to understand the actual fiqh al-hadith. The ruh, the spirit of the hadith. What is the hadith basically what? Saying you in simple, basic, easy words that are clear always and tangible, practical. Everyone can get the analogy with the what? With the wall. Hopefully, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Everybody understand this or not? So that's what the hadith is telling us. Everybody clear on this or not? Tayyib? Now, that's the simplicity of the understanding of the hadith in the beginning. From the issues that pertain to this hadith, is what we spoke about Saturday in Hempstead. The weakness of the hadith, إِذَا انْتَصَفَ شَعْبَانِ فَلَا تَصُومُوا. When the middle of Sha'ban comes around, don't make any fasts. This hadith is in the Sahihain, says, إِلَّا رَجُلٌ كَانَ يَصُومُ يَوْمًا فَلْيَصُمْهُ. Except for a man who normally fasts. And that hadith says when Sha'ban comes, the second half of it, don't what? Don't fast. And this hadith says, except for a man who normally in Sha'ban. Obviously, if it's a day before, it says, لَا تَقَدَّمُوا. Don't come before Ramadan with 1 or 2 extra days of fasting as a precaution or whatever interpretation. If it's 1 or 2 days before Ramadan, then it's obviously after what? The 15th of Sha'ban. So that doesn't make any sense. Everybody clear on this or not? interpreting the hadith, it means this and that, is the hadith not sahih to begin with. Aslan. Everybody clear on this or not? And as we said before, with regards to the fiqh of the hadith and understanding the criticism of the hadith and the mutun, looking at the context of the hadith and to clearly see what's authentic and what's not authentic. And the sciences of hadith is not just based off of the isnad and those Muslims, scholars or students who say that, or they may not say that exclusively. They say it's a little bit of metan criticism, but it's mostly based on the isnad. They still have the poison of the Orientalists in their system. They still have the poison of the doubts of the Orientalists in their system, whether they realize it or not. Is that the people of hadith, they had a system of accepting or rejecting a hadith based off of everything and not just the chain of reporters. Everybody understand this? The fiqh of the hadith, the meaning of the hadith. This hadith says don't fast 1 or 2 days before Ramadan unless it's a normal practice. And this hadith says when the middle of Sha'ban comes, don't fast anymore. Something is clearly wrong, let alone with the problems with the isnad of the hadith. Everybody understand this? The method itself is mushkil. And it's clashing and contradicting and going against something that's clearly authentically established. Or the hadith about fasting on Saturdays. Perfect example of this. How many voluntary fasts pertain to Saturdays? 3 days out of every month. The white nights. The day before Jumu'ah, a day after Jumu'ah. This, Sha'ban. The Prophet fasted most of Sha'ban, if not all of Sha'ban. And this hadith says, don't fast on Saturday. إِلَّا فِي مَفْتُرِدَ عَلَيْكُمْ. Unless it's mandatory. Even if you have to bite tree bark. Something wrong when there's one hadith which is barely, if it's even making the grade of authenticity, clashing with 20 other authentic, well-established hadith. Everybody understand this? And it wasn't the way of the ulama of the past. Everybody understand this? They didn't take a hadith, piece here, piece there, piece here, piece there, piece there, and say hasan li ghayrihi, mashi. No, it doesn't work like that. Everybody clear on this? Khayr inshallah, hada biikhtisar. So that's a simple way of understanding the hadith. Another issue or concept with this hadith is the hadith that's going to come later on, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, is the issue of Yawm al-Shak, is the doubtful day, or the day of doubt, which we'll explain later on what exactly is Yawm al-Shak when it comes to the beginning of Ramadan. Was the moon sighted? The 29th of Sha'ban? Is Sha'ban 30 days this month, or 29? Did we see the moon? In other words, it was cloudy when they were looking for the moon for Ramadan. So we don't know whether Sha'ban is this the 30th day of Sha'ban or the first day of Ramadan. The moon was not sighted because it was cloudy or is very inclement weather. Everybody understand this? We could not normally see the moon. So, since we couldn't see the moon, it could technically be what? It could be the first day of Ramadan. But the asl is that it's the 30th day of Sha'ban. Whereas the other hadith tell us, don't fast until we see it. Don't break the fast until we what? See it. فَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ فَإِنْ غُبِّيَ عَلَيْكُمْ الْفَاظ وَرِوَايَات. If you cannot see the moon, then فَأَكْمِلُوا فَقَدِّرُوا. A hadith, they say, finish it. Complete it. Some narrators say, estimate it. In other words, make Sha'ban to be what? 30. Give it a full length. Everybody understand this or not? Everybody pay close attention now. Pay close attention. A month in Ramadan, a month in Islam, the lunar month cannot be longer than what? 30 days. And it's never shorter than 29. There's no 28 days. There's no 30, 31st. Either 30 or 29. So, it's the 20th day of what? Sha'ban. Before Salat al-Maghrib, they're going to start looking for the moon for Ramadan. Before Salat al-Maghrib. Everybody understand? No, the 29th day. Once again, the 29th day. 29th what? 29th day, not the 29th though. Sir? 29th day of what? Sha'ban. Shortly before Maghrib, they're going to start looking for of Ramadan. But it's cloudy. It's raining. You can't see. It may be Ramadan, maybe the moon did come. But you can't see it. So the next day, which is the 30th day of Sha'ban, everybody understand this? And it's been 29 nights of Sha'ban, 30 days right now. Is it the first of Ramadan or is it the 30th of Sha'ban? Some people will call this, consider this what? Yawm al-Shak. The day of what? Now, Abu Sa'id, the 29th day of Sha'ban is clear skies. We looked for the moon, we didn't what? We didn't see it. There's no what? No doubt. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, tomorrow is the 30th day of Sha'ban. And after that, it's going to be Ramadan for sure. No shak. But here the problem is that it's what? Cloudy. So somebody saying, I'm going to do what? Use the insulation. I'm going to pad myself. I'm going to shield myself. Because it could be Ramadan. So therefore, I'm going to fast it just to make the insulation. It may get cold. When was the last time it snowed in Guyana? Everybody understand this? But the brother, he says, maybe it'll what? Who knows? Everybody understand this or not? Everybody clear on this or not? Everybody understand this or not? So this hadith, يتعلق بمسألة يوم الشك وصيامه. That's another mas'ala fiqhiyya that pertains to this what? This hadith. Everybody got this or not? Moving forward. As-Sanani rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, الحديث دليل على تحريم صوم يوم أو يومين قبل دخول رمضان. قال الترمذي بعد رواية الحديث والعمل على هذا عند أهل العلم كرهوا أن يتعجل الرجل الصيام قبل دخول رمضان لمعنى رمضان انتهى. وقوله لمعنى رمضان تقييد للنهي بأنه مشروط بكون الصوم احتياطا لا لو كان صوما مطلقا كالنفل المطلق وللنذر ونحوه. He says here, Sanani, the Sharh, he who was explaining Bulugh-Maram, Bulugh-Maram is by Ibn Hajar, he says this hadith proves that it is impermissible to fast 1 or 2 days before Ramadan. He says the hadith proves that it's impermissible to fast 1 or 2 days before Ramadan. He then says, or he quotes from Imam at-Tirmidhi, the Jami' of Imam at-Tirmidhi, who says, after he mentioned this hadith in his Jami', and this goes to show you the fa'idah of reading books other than Bukhari and Muslim. Because this commentary, this sharh of Tirmidhi that we're going to read, is not mentioned by Imam al-Bukhari or by Imam Muslim. And it's a fa'idah from a Tirmidhi. As we spoke on and talked about many times before, at-Tirmidhi being the most beneficial of the 6 books. Pound for pound, yani. What? Pound for pound. May not be the hardest punching boxer. May not be this, but what? Pound for pound. Defense, offense, katha, forward, pound for pound. We said the most beneficial book, what? Pound for pound. Everybody clear on this? Al-Bukhari is a slugger. Muslim is katha. Abu Dawood is this. But Tirmidhi is what? Pound for pound the best. Everybody clear on this? So Tirmidhi rahimahullah, he says after he mentioned this hadith, وَالْعَمَلُ عَلَى هَذَا إِنَّ أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ. He says this hadith not only is it authentic, but it was implemented by the Salaf al-Salih, the people of knowledge. It was something that they accepted and they implemented. It wasn't a hadith. It wasn't an issue that was not practiced. It was something that they what? They actually did and they implemented it. Everybody clear this? And that's very important as well with regards to fiqh and hadith and what is implemented and what wasn't implemented. That's a long discussion in itself. He says, Karihu, the people of knowledge. If Tirmidhi was in the 3rd century Suhail, then he says, Karihu, they disliked, and he's talking about the ulama before him. The ulama of what? Before him. So look how old your fiqh goes back to now. Over 1,000 years ago. You're reading what the people of knowledge, what the ulama said what? Back then. Or what? Sheikh Fulan of the 7th century said this. He said that Fulan said it's permissible to celebrate the Prophet's birthday. And the Prophet, ﷺ, he said, that's the day in which I was born. That's the day in which the revelation was given to me. Naam, Allah talks about the kuffar and the different days of them being punished and so on and this and that. But I'm quoting from what Imam Fulan of the 3rd century said. 400 years before this alim came along, no one ever said, celebrate the Prophet's birthday. Billah alik. How are you even going to have a debate, Osama? You're going to blow the guy what? Out the water. Everybody clear on this? Let alone a scholar from the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th century. You're going to blow him out of the water. Boom. Next. There's no comparison between the fiqh of the salaf and the confidence in your argument and somebody that's quoting from some half-baked scholar of today. Everybody understand this? Very important when it comes to reading the classical books of the ulama. Reading the classical works of the what? Of the ulama. Khairan inshallah. He says, Karihu, he says, they dislike, they hate, meaning the people who came what? For him. He's in the 3rd century. It's early enough. He's an imam. Disciple of Imam al-Bukhari. But he's saying what? Whom? They, the Salaf al-Salih, the ulama before him. They disliked, he says, أَن يَتَعَجَّلَ الرَّجُلُ, for man to be hasty. And that's another interpretation of the hadith. It's to fast before the month of Ramadan 1 or 2 days out of what? Haste. To hasten it. Slow down, relax. Ramadan will what? It'll come. Don't worry. It's going to what? It's going to come. Just be patient. But it may be Ramadan. I got to get ready. I got to do it. What? It will come. He says here, لِمَعْنِ Ramadan. Based off of the meaning of Ramadan. I'm hastening for Ramadan. As far as someone who's fasting, he says, Sanani, no more Tirmidhi. Someone who fasts because of normal fasting, or they made a vow to Allah, then there's nothing wrong with what? Nothing wrong with that. But the prohibition of fasting because of not even that. Malish. Lima'na Ramadan. Anything that pertains to Ramadan. Haste, precaution, Aisha. I want to connect the nafil with the fard. Anything that pertains to what? Ramadan. That's what this hadith is applied to. Anything that pertains to what? Ramadan. As far as it's my normal fast that has nothing to do with Ramadan, la ba's. Everybody got this or not? Oh wait, you with me? Everybody got this or not? Moving forward. He says, rahimahullah ta'ala, قلت ولا يخفى أن بعد هذا التقييد يلزم منه جواز تقدم رمضان بأي صوم كان وخلاف الظاهر من النهي فإنه عام لم يستثن منه إلا صوما اعتاد صوم أيام معلومة ووافق آخر يوم من شعبان ولو أراد صلى الله عليه وسلم الصوم المقيد بما ذكر لقال إلا متنفلا أو نحو هذا اللفظ وإنما نهى عن تقدم رمضان لأن الشارع قد علق الدخول في صوم رمضان برؤية هلاله فالمتقدم عليه مخالف للنص أمرا ونهيا وفي إبطال لما يفعله الباطنية من تقدم الصوم بيوم أو يومين قبل رؤية هلال رمضان وزعمهم إلى آخره. He says here, that this interpretation here, he doesn't necessarily agree with it. And he says that the Prophet ﷺ says, don't fast 1 or 2 days before Ramadan unless it's your normal habit. In other words, he's saying Tirmidhi's speech is pertaining to what? He says what? Tirmidhi is basically saying that you can make any fast before Ramadan as long as it doesn't pertain to Ramadan. Everybody clear on this? You can make any what? Any fast before Ramadan as long as it's not for the purpose of Ramadan. As-San'ani rahimahullah, he's saying that the hadith means the only way that it's permissible to fast 1 or 2 days before Ramadan if it coincides with one of your normal days. One of your normal what? Patterns. Everybody understand this? The 29th day, the 28th day of Sha'ban is a Thursday. And the person says, I normally fast Mondays and Thursdays. So according to As-San'ani rahimahullah, he says that you can what? Fast on that Thursday. You can fast on that what? Thursday. Let's say someone doesn't fast Mondays and Thursdays. And he said, I just want to fast tomorrow for Thursday. According to Tirmidhi's speech, that's what? That's okay. Because he's not pertaining to what? Ramadan. But that Thursday isn't his normal practice. It isn't his normal what, Abu Sayyid? It isn't his normal practice. Everybody understand this or not? Whether it's this one or that one, what's important is that you don't fast because of Ramadan. Either of those two interpretations could be taken. Al-Muhim, what's important is that you don't what? Because of Ramadan. Everybody got this or not? You got it, Lutfi? You with me? Everybody with me or not? Khairan, inshallah. Moving forward. He then goes on to speak on several other issues, refuting the Batiniyah. And he also speaks of the hadith of Abi Hurairah that we mentioned about Sha'ban. إذا انتصف شعبان فلا تصوموا أخرجوا أصحاب السنن وغيرهم وقيل أنه يكره بعد الانتصاف ويحرم قبل رمضان بيوم أو يومين وقال آخرون يجوز من بعد انتصافه ويحرم قبله بيوم أو يومين أما جواز الأول فلأنه الأصل وحديث أبي هريرة ضعيف قال أحمد وابن معين أنه منكر وأما تحريم الثاني فلحديث الكتاب وهو قول حسن. He says, speaking about the issue of hadith that states, إِذَا انْتَصَفَ شَعْبَانُ فَلَا تَصُومُوا. When Sha'ban reaches its midpoint, then don't fast. It's collected by Ashab al-Sunan, he says, Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, wa ghayrihim, and others. You can find this hadith And he says, in ulama, they have different interpretations with regards to this hadith and these two hadiths. Some of them, they say that once it reaches the 16th day, it's just makruh. But a day or two before the 30th or the 29th is actually haram. One interpretation. Another view, he says, it's permissible to fast after the 15th of Sha'ban. Not disliked, this is permissible. But it's haram to do before Ramadan 1 or 2 days. Everybody understand this? Harmonizing between the two what? Texts. He says, as far as the permissibility, so on and so forth, the asl, and he says the hadith Abi Hurairah is da'if. Ibn Ahmad and Ibn Ma'in, they said it's munkar, it's unknown, disavowed and rejected. Khairan, inshallah. Moving forward to the next hadith. Hadith number 611 here in my book. This one says what? 528. The author, he says, وعن عمار بن ياسر رضي الله عنه قال من صام اليوم الذي يشك فيه فقد عصى أبا القاسم صلى الله عليه وسلم. ذكره البخاري تعليقا ووصله الخمسة وصححه ابن خزيمة وابن حبان. عن عمار بن ياسر رضي الله عنه قال من صام اليوم الذي يشك فيه فقد عصى أبا القاسم صلى الله عليه وسلم. ذكره البخاري تعليقا ووصله الخمسة وصححه ابن خزيمة وابن حبان. Hadith number 528 says, narrated Ammar bin Yasir radiyallahu anhu. He who fasts on a day that the starting of Ramadan is doubted has disobeyed Abu al-Qasim sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Al-Bukhari mentioned it as a mu'allaq, but Al-Khamsa traced it back to the Prophet sallallahu as a mawsul. And Ibn Hibban graded it sahih. And Ibn Hibban graded it what? As sahih. We'll stop here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. Jazakumullahu khairan.